Well, this is episode 77 with Deidre Wright.
Welcome to Spot On Insurance. Join us each week as we speak to insurance professionals, attorneys, regulators, and compliance specialists on topics ranging from improving your agency to staying on the right side of the law. Subscribe and stay informed on the effects of new trends and disruptive emerging technologies on your businesses and your industry.
This is your host, Ted Tavares.
And this is your co-host, Arlene Tavares.
Hey, Arlene, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Our guest today is Deidre Wright, ARME. Deidre is Director, Engagement and Marketing of the Diversity and Inclusion Institute for Business Insurance. She holds a bachelor's degree in Sociology and Anthropology from Spelman College, has served as RIMS Advisory Board Rising Risk Professionals, and has served as Vice Chair of the Emerging Leaders Council of the National African American Insurance Association. She's also played a role as Global Risk Management Insurance Specialist, Casualty Advisor for Marsh. Deidre, welcome to Spot On Insurance.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited to have you here. First of all, we'd like to start a little bit with your insurance career. Did you stumble upon the insurance industry?
Well, I took the long route. I grew up in a family where my mother worked in industry, but I was not into insurance at all. One, I didn't understand what it was, risk management, as well as I had other interests, but I'm so glad I had the exposure early on and other experiences in marketing as well as public health, and then got to insurance with the understanding of what skills are needed and then appreciation of why this industry is so great for us.
So go back a little ways and tell us your story about how you got here.
You know, I went to Spelman College, studied sociology and anthropology, and I was in school during the recession. And
wait, tell me a little bit about that education. What got you so interested in that? Why were you interested in sociology and anthropology?
Yeah, why take liberal arts? Well, you know, when you're young, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to enjoy what I'm studying and have a passion about it. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to change the world in a positive way. Maybe I'm a millennial and I'm optimistic, but I've always just thought I want to understand how the world operates, how society does, and what I can do to empower and make change happen. So I took up sociology and anthropology with that mission. And then why take that? What's the value of it? It's liberal arts. Well, you basically can analyze data, pitch different ideas, and also just, understand how to relate to different people and address their needs. And so with that, I was interested in public health because back then I thought health is wealth, and I still do. And so I wanted to figure out ways in which I can positively impact different communities to own their health and make it better. So I was in Inroads, which is a diversity internship program, which gives minority college students exposure to various industries. So I worked with Kaiser there for 4 summers, got hired on after college, working on a cancer study, figuring out why girls start puberty earlier. And long-term, who gets cancer, because the Bay Area has one of the highest rates of breast cancer in Marin County. So I did that, which was great. But then I was like, I have other passions and needs. I like the idea of understanding issues and how to solve it, but it was a longitudinal study. So it take 30 years to get the results. I'm like, well, what can I do now to make and change? Because 30 years from now is a long time. And so I got to marketing to figure out how do I market messages and call to actions to people to make them take change earlier. So that's kind of where I transitioned from public health to marketing, and then from marketing to insurance, because basically I had my son and I was going between different opportunities. My contract was ended. And basically, they laid off the marketing department at the company I was working at. So I'm like, what can I do? And I was like, hey, this risk management, I heard it's great, great money, great travel. Let me learn more about this. And I basically did informational interviews, a lot of my mom's peer groups, to understand more about what it is. And once I was like, oh, wow, I have the skill sets for this and I can make the transition, I just started applying for jobs. And that's how I got into insurance, as an adult.
I guess that the insurance industry allows you to ask your questions like you were before. The only thing is you get your answers a little sooner than 30 years.
For sure. I mean, and it's also a great way to kind of fuse the research, because my background was in research. So even now, we did a diversity survey for the Diversity Inclusion Institute, and using that background in research, you never know how that can play into your future. And then the questions, when I was a broker, you're asking your clients, like, what's going on? What are these different areas? Where are the risks? And having that inquisitive nature helps with insurance, whether your insurance stuff, helping clients discover their exposures and needs, and then just overall just having a good understanding of what you're doing in your job.
So Deidre, I'm going to tell you that 30 years, maybe from your perspective, seems like a long ways out. But I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was just like lying about my age, trying to be older. And now all of a sudden, 30 years later, I'm like, holy cow, that just seems like yesterday that I was trying to be older. I'm not trying to be older anymore. So it goes by pretty fast. I'm excited about jumping into today's topic, which is going to be all about diversity and inclusion, specifically in the insurance industry. I think Ted and I are like perfect people to tackle this issue with you, as we are all minorities in the insurance industry. Ted and I, of course, have worked for major insurance agencies in the past. Particularly, we worked for J.H. Manette, which was a London broker, before we started our own business. So we have that perspective of having been in the corporate world in the insurance industry and then having our own business and our employees. So
we never left the insurance industry. Once it gets in your blood, forget it.
Yeah, we never left it. Once it was in our blood, that's it. We were hooked. But Business Insurance just published a survey this month, August of 2018, analyzing various factors. Can you give us a summary, kind of a snapshot of the findings?
Right. Yes. I was really excited that we're able to do this before Business Insurance had diversity surveys. The thing about it before, we had to get more outreach from minorities. So in order to compare and contrast attitudes, data we need to have. And this year we're able to accomplish that by having more of a larger Black population to do that. And so overall, with results, we found that, majority, 52% of the respondents believe the CEOs are actually accountable for D&I success. So when you think about that, it's not an HR issue. The CEO is responsible based on what insurance industry professionals believe. Additionally, we found that the top 3 priorities for what people should be focusing on with diversity inclusion is, performance and compensation decisions, retention and development of diverse talent, and as well as in making sure that there's diversity on all levels, not just lower levels of the companies. And then overall, when looking at the challenges to diversity inclusion, the top 3 things were finding diverse talents with the skill set, more consistent and visible leadership on the issue, and lack of the business understanding the business case for that. Now, also keep in mind with this, majority of our participants were white, with, like I said, the next largest population was Black. So hopefully next time we'll get more minority participation from Latins, Asians, and others to understand this. But I think it's a great opportunity to understand what to invest in, which it seems like, leadership and development programs for minority talent within the insurance industry. So there's Inroads, there's other programs, there's NAYA, there's LAYA, there's other organizations we can tap into. So let's kind of fund these and create development programs for industry professionals. That way that we get more diverse talent with the not only the abilities, but the support within organizations to climb and rise.
I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying about the chief executive officer being responsible for the diversity program. To a certain extent it is, but that middle management layer, correct me if I'm wrong, if the numbers say something different, but sometimes even having a chief executive officer who's pushing this, you can still have that problem with middle management where there are groups or folks that don't subscribe to it.
Right. With that, I know there's been talks outside of the study about, middle management, the challenge. I know when I was a broker, if I wasn't meeting my client retention goals, I was either going to have a job or not. So I think the key thing is making sure this is part of compensation and performance evaluation, sustaining a diverse team, retention of, diverse employees. Are you guys doing diversity training? I think if the CEO says it's imperative for the business, they make that part of management's compensation structure. I've heard of that before at a broker, in which I think 20% of someone's bonus eligibility was based on their diversity goals. Well, they're going to pay attention to that, the middle managers, because they're going to get paid based on that performance or not of, their diversity inclusion goals and measurement of that.
Well, I got you. So there are ways of the CEO making sure
Right.
that people are following through.
Right. If they have those. So if companies haven't developed them, there's an opportunity there to figure out how do you integrate that into the whole business process, because if it's not a business imperative, then it's not going to happen, because it's not just a nice thing to do. It is nice, but clients are becoming more diverse. There's more diverse people within your workforce, and you want to retain that talent. There's so many people worried about the talent gap. Well, part of that solution is also retention. People won't leave if they're happy and feel included. So it's not just a nice to have, like it's a business imperative, and now more than ever to make sure your company has a way to track, measure, and evaluate diversity inclusion goals within the company.
Well, I would think that these days it's a no-brainer when you look at the situation where in certain areas of the insurance industry, there's like a million jobs going unfilled because they don't have the talent there. And you've got all these folks that are looking for work. What are some of the significant benefits to having a diverse culture?
Well, I think one is you have more employee engagement, and employee engagement is more for, hey, is my voice heard when I address or raise something? And that could be, even if it's not let's say the best idea, but I'm listened to, because sometimes employees on the floor have the best ideas and solutions because they're seeing issues. So, is my voice included? Also, I would say a benefit is making sure the engagement is there, because if people are engaged, they're working harder on their clients, they're producing more results. Also, you're able to match the population's demand. Population is becoming more diverse as it is, languages, more globalization. So if you don't have the employees there to match that, it might be presenting challenges when it's like, is it between broker A or B? Is it between, underwriter A and B? It's like, well, this person understands my culture and what I'm doing. And I try to illustrate this in many ways. It's more of, okay, if you have let's say a tech client, okay, are you coming to them the way that they want to be coming to? Like, are you using technology that they're using? Are you having the right kind of dress code to show that you understand what they're engaging? Like, if you don't address people and come to them where they're at, you're going to lose out on opportunity. And overall, it's like you got to show your value. So the value should be is, do we want to be, leading forward and thinking about the future? Or do we want to rely on the same old, same old? If you do that, you're not going to sustain market share, and you're not going to grow. So you can't just do the same old, same old. And with that being said, you have to be diverse in order to drive innovation, get more ideas, as well as, think about the future and what your company wants to stand for.
Right, because at the end of the day, what you're looking for is how do you resolve problems, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to have a group of folks that can get to solutions that think very differently, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when we are trying to provide these solutions to what is now more and more a demographics that is very mixed and a true melting pot. As the years go by, we are becoming more and more of a melting pot. It's even like, I see it from the standpoint of years ago, we had a manager that was perhaps against hiring or, just had a little bit of hesitancy on hiring perhaps a male worker that had a ponytail or that was all tatted up. Ted and I were fine with it, and we ended up hiring this person. That person ended up being a very creative person, mm-hmm. a person that brought so many talents to our organization. And had we had that closed mind of, oh, this isn't the image that we want, we're closing ourselves to those types of solutions that person brings to the table to us. And that's the way it is with race. Mm-hmm. One thing I also want to chat a little bit about is just as we approach situations, like mm-hmm. I mentioned before at the top of the episode that Ted and I both worked for a very large insurance agency, happened to be a London broker that had just opened up its operations in North America, in New York. And you can imagine London, so we had our CEO was from London, and you go into it thinking things are going to be, perhaps for myself, I was in my early 20s, thinking that things were going to be a certain way. And, you come in with that mindset, and you have to just let things unfold in front of you before you make judgments, before you actually understand what's happening around you. And I think so many times our minds are already closed in.
You're saying you're bringing prejudice in before you
Exactly.
feeling like they might be biased before you actually step in and look at this and get to know the people.
Well, and that's the thing. You gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself. It sounds, it's a whole song, but it's like you gotta check yourself, and which is a beauty. Actually, our Diversity Inclusion Institute will be having an unconscious bias webinar coming out. When we have the Chief HR Officer at NFP speaking about unconscious bias, like what does that mean? What are some techniques for like uncovering that, and what can companies do? And that'll be in September 18th. What we're doing, and the purpose of that is that you need to check yourself. It might be something unconscious, as well as just you're aware that you have biases. So what am I doing to be aware of what's my biases? Is why do I have this? Is it experience? Is it fear? Is it my own insecurity? Do I need to, research and get more information about what this is? So I think a lot of times there are issues out in the workplace. There are microaggressions, there are aggressions that happen, but also think as an individual, why do I feel this way? Do I understand this? Do I need to have a conversation like, hey, like, tell me about your organization. Tell me about the culture. Like, rather than me assume it, let me ask questions and have that kind of relationship in which I am okay to learn about things and also know that I don't know everything, or that, hey, I feel this way. Let me dig deeper. Why do I have this impression on that? And I think that will lead to a lot of people creating more diverse, inclusive environments by just checking in on what is their issues or what are opportunities for them to help the world be more inclusive.
Yeah, I'll share with you a little story back to my days when I was at Manette. And one day our CEO at the time, and he was British, came in. He comes out of the kitchen and into the office that I'm standing in my boss's office, and I'm having a conversation with her. And he comes in and he's like, hey lad, or chap, whatever he called us. And he's like, how do I get a cup of coffee? How do I get a cup of coffee here? And my first reaction was, this dude just wants me to make him a cup of coffee. And I felt like I was just cringing, and I felt like, what the heck is going on? And I just walked over to the kitchen with him, and he's like, oh, can you please show me how I make it? Because I just want to fix myself a cup of coffee. And he sincerely just wanted me to teach him how to operate the coffee machine. He had just come in the day before from London. He didn't know how to operate our coffee machine. And he just really wanted to learn how to make a cup of coffee. And I was just taking it a whole other way.
Well, it's not necessarily, because I think the whole thing, unconscious, like things happen. Well, there are experiences that we have where people have, assumed things that you must be the secretary. It's like, no, I'm actually this role. And so I can understand this. It's more like, I think it's having that, like I said, check it in, like, how am I feeling? And then playing it out like, hey, like, have you not made coffee with this? Is this a machine? Like, I think asking qualifying questions without sounding like you're interrogating them might help, uncover like, okay. And then if it is, let's say, a situation where, it's not the genuine asking the question, but the assumption like, hey, like, it's great you're asking me, I guess, why do you think I know how to work this? Like, do we need to select like a KitchenAid person? Like you have to help educate people in a way that's not gonna be too direct, I would say, but also open up like, oh wow, I didn't think about things that way. Like, yeah, it makes me feel like you thought it was the right let me find you the appropriate person to help you with this. I think it's a way to message that so people are aware of, hey, wow, I made this assumption, that's not cool, but also learning opportunity for everybody on maybe I won't engage in things that way.
Definitely. It was a learning opportunity for me.
I do want to touch upon people who have helped us along the way, and it's always a surprise, but we started off very young and we were working, both of us freelance, and we ended up at Chemical Bank together. And Arlene had this amazing boss who actually didn't keep people very long because he seemed to be quite mean. But Arlene, I think you can tell the story. What a phenomenal man.
And I'm just going to go ahead and say his name. His name is Ed Birkin, and he was the deputy controller of the finance division at Chemical Bank. And I was probably a good 19 years old. I started working there in the corporate reporting department. And when I went in, there were a bunch of 20-year-olds, recent college grads, all accounting majors. And they said to me, oh my gosh, he's not going to keep you. He cannot keep, and I was an administrative assistant at the time. He can't keep an administrative assistant for more than a month. He's pretty mean. He's a tough guy. You're not going to last. And I heard all of their comments, and I just went in and started doing my work and just talking with him and chatting with him. And before you knew it, I was like, teach me how to do this and teach me how to do Lotus 1, 2, 3. And he would just teach me all these different things. And I ended up working for Ed Birkin for 6 years. Mm-hmm. It was a wonderful time. He taught me so many things, not just about the work life, my professional life, but he also took it upon himself to talk to me about, hey, don't eat off the hot dog stand in the corner down there on Madison Avenue. That stuff is not healthy.
And not because I'm Jewish, but because it's not good for you.
Just like the mentoring. And for me, that was, one of the earliest lessons of, you have to go in and see it for yourself. You can't take all this negativity that sometimes is being told to you. You have to go ahead and experience it for yourself and see what you can develop, what relationships you can develop in life, in your professional career, in your day-to-day life. And so that was such a wonderful experience.
Well, similar things happen in college when you're going to a class. People have taken it before. That professor is horrible. Oh my God, you're not gonna like. You walk in there and go, I like this professor. It's pretty good. The stuff he's talking about is pretty deep. You just didn't get it.
But one of the things that in that survey, in that business insurance survey that I read about, is that one of the biggest challenges leaders say that they have is finding candidates, diverse candidates that are applying for these jobs that they have opened. Deidre, share with us, how do we combat this issue?
Right. I think there's two folds. You have the companies and you also have the individuals to address with tactics and strategies and everything. From the company standpoint, I think it's two things. Is one, what are some organizations you can tap into and find that? It might not be insurance specific, but there's organizations who've been around for multiple years who have been doing the work. And then also think about okay, so what can we do about mentorship and what can we do with that? Because you think about this, most people mentor people who look like them or say, this kid remind me in my younger days. Well, is that, if you're, let's say, a male and a white male, is that always going to be a young Black woman or, or someone different or a disabled person? Think about, you always go after what's comfortable. So companies, let's talk about the organization. There's plenty of organizations that currently exist. There's LAIA, that's a Latin insurance organization. There's NAIA, which is one for African Americans. There are also things outside. RIMS also is having a big push for diversity inclusion. So I would reach out to them, like the Rise and Risk Professionals, a diversity task force, tap into that. There's also groups like ASCEND, which is the Asian professional organization. There's Prospanica, that's another, that's a Hispanic professional organization, National Black MBA. There's a Black Actuarial Society. There's various things that's already there. Systems are already been created, like Inroads, the program I was in. It is built already with multiple companies in which they can tap into this program, get top talented interns from colleges, have them be exposed to their company, and then they'll typically select that organization afterwards to stay. I know I did it with my Inroads company and got good experience and everything. So use that. If you already have internship program, maybe match the two, because your program, who are you selecting people from for schools? Think about that. Is it the same schools? Are those schools diverse? Are they not? You might need to match them up with your internship program and also up Inroads, because Inroads will always give them the support they need. Because let's be real, sometimes it's nice hearing experience or people who look like me. So if I'm a minority person and I'm going to this organization, I want to talk to other minorities there and say, what's your experience like? What are the real deal situations? Because I want to know if on a cultural level, I'll be, compensated right, I'll be treated right, and it'll be fine. So I think you need to think about what's your current existing organization's internship program, and also how can you match it with an existing minority-focused one that is already established. And on the mentorship route, talk to your leaders and executives and have them reach out to mentors and set up either programs where they go and tap into their company employee resource groups and be like, hey, we want to assign, let's say, a X amount of managing directors to this one, maybe it's the Asian quality research group or the woman. And you guys have to also select maybe 2 people from that group to mentor. That way you have more exposure. And also, I would say if you're a minority leader, expose someone who's younger, who's not like you. So it might be a young white male. So they'll be also exposed to different minorities in a different kind of capacity. From a leadership standpoint, you need that. Also taking it to the individual. I would say for me, my career blew up when I was really authentic about myself and led with who I am now. I'm not just going around saying, this is me, I'm Deidre, but in everything I'm doing, I try to explain what my experience, what I'm doing. Like, for example, one of my clients worked in healthcare. And so talking about my experience in healthcare, we happened to be at that company, was a great way to bond with them, So I would say, think about like who you are as a person. I know when I had a headshot taken, a corporate headshot, I had the biggest reaction when I had one with my natural hair. And that was a choice based on accident. My hairdresser wasn't available. Couldn't get my hair pressed. And I had my hair natural. And everyone's like, oh my God, it looks so great. I'm like, it's just a headshot. But that headshot symbolized, I guess, to them that I feel comfortable with myself, and that confidence radiated. So be who you are, learn your personal brand and amplify it. That means there's a thing called 360 Reach. It's an online thing you can do in which you can get a 360 survey done from people who are your colleagues, your clients, your friends. They could tell you about yourself. It gives you personal brand assessment. And I use this myself when I did a professional organization development course. And then from that, get your LinkedIn popping. Figure out what's your brand, what's your expertise. Post things based on your industry specialty, whether it's insurance. Talk about, hey, this is what's going on property casualty this year. And here's my idea about this, man. This is a great thing to get into, or this is a great service my company provides. Have your name out there. Be proud of that. And that will get you more opportunities, whether you're a minority or not, because you're personally branding yourself. Align yourself with organizations. From Marsh and I had a study done this year talking about the African-American experience in insurance. It said that it was such a great opportunity for people to join NIE and diverse organizations because there's more opportunity that people aren't aware of. So I would say if you are a minority or if you're not a minority, join these organizations. So either you're getting the support you need or you're aligning yourself with diverse organizations so you can poach in good, diverse talent. So both corporations and individuals can do things to increase diversity, inclusion, and find the right diverse talent.
Well, it would seem to me that some of these companies are reaching into these organizations, those that are interested in that diversity and improving that in their companies are reaching out to these organizations and say, hey, who do you recommend that we can incorporate into what we're doing? So if you're in that area, you would be in the right place.
Right. And it's like, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. That's my thing is I would go, if it was me and I'm looking for people, I'll go to my ERGs, my people like, hey, like everyone give me their top 10 professional organizations or things they follow, and then compile a list and then target that, because clearly what's happening is not working. If you're saying there's so many roles needed, we need so much more diversity, like it's a broken system, or it's not going to sustain itself. There's risk management insurance colleges, but they're not enough to fill the need. So let's think about, can we go to community colleges? Does someone need a 4-year degree to do the job? Well, a lot of the stuff is just critical thinking. So what other things can we do to tap in the top talent? Can we poach from different industries? Can we get mothers who might have been out the workforce for X amount of years, but they are managing the homes? If they can do all that multitask, they can definitely process some insurance. So I think there's different ways that we can get diverse talent. Our vets, let's reach out to them. They sacrifice for our country. What are we giving them in return? We hopefully get them some job opportunities that they can handle within insurance.
Right.
Spot On is sponsored by Insurance Licensing Services of America. Need help with corporate name changes, annual returns, or surplus lines tax filings? Feeling overwhelmed? If you're looking for experts in regulatory compliance, you've come to the right place. ILSA provides the industry with over 50 services. To learn more about the company and how they can help, visit ilsainc.com.
I was thinking about something that we said earlier, and that is that we always have got to be on the lookout for mentors. Regardless of the color, whatever, it doesn't really matter because the stories that we told were from somebody who were obviously Caucasian, Jewish, and we were told this person is not going to be a great person for you to work with, blah, blah, blah. And yet, because of the personality that Arlene brought to the table, because she was looking to learn and that individual loved to impart knowledge, he didn't care what color she was, or she was a woman or anything else. It's just this person is thirsty to learn.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is in all companies, there are these people that don't care about any of that. And it's not something that they think about. It's like, oh, this is just somebody who would like to learn it. And I would love to take this opportunity to mentor them and teach them. Always be on the lookout for that. Start right where you're at and look around and see if maybe you can find a mentor who can help you.
And I think, like for myself and Ted, one of the reasons that we absolutely love doing this podcast is because we feel that we're finally in a position that we're able to just give back like constantly, right? Like, I mean, running our business, yes, we're giving back to our employees. We're doing so many things on their professional development, but now we have this platform that we're talking to so many people because it is about giving back, right? And having that opportunity to mentor others. There's so many people that reach out to me on my, inbox on LinkedIn and will ask, hey, can I just chat with you for a little bit on, how I'm developing in my career? And I love to do that because quite frankly, when we go to conferences and we go to so many conferences across the United States, I look around and or especially myself, I stick out, I really stick out and I'm amazed, right? Because we started in this industry, 25 or so years ago. And here, at this point, 25 years later, we still stick out so much. So we wonder, what is it that we need to do to teach people, teach people that there are opportunities in this wonderful industry, great careers that you can develop. There's so many jobs that are available in our industry, actuaries, risk management, and on and on and on. And so, we talk to amongst ourselves about that, like, what do we need to do to broaden that message, expand that message out there. But I know that you have a really busy schedule in the next coming months. And we didn't tell you this before we started recording today's interview, but we're actually going to be meeting you live very, very soon in a couple of weeks because you're going to be going to NAAIA.
Yeah, it's what we just say NAIA and call it a day. Just spelling all that out. But yeah, so that's exciting. That's one thing I would say I love about podcasting. I end up finding new friends that I'm going to meet them at some place. And I'm like, if I wouldn't have had this, I mean, we would have met, but just it's great to know I'll meet a new friend. So yeah, I'll be at the NAIA conference. That'll be September 26th to 28th. And I'm actually the vice chair of their Emerging Leaders Council. So it's NAIA's effort to embrace and mold and promote the next generation of leaders that might be either you're young or they're new in their 10-year of working in insurance. And so we're going to be launching our reception for NAIA's Emerging Leaders, as well as I'm going to be co-monitoring a panel. The panel is going to be focused on disruption of the industry. So now we have new disruptions, whether it's legalized marijuana or the shared economy or different cyber issues. How do we understand what those are, and as well as seize the moment and understand careers and opportunities within this space? So we'll have a great panel. I'm co-monitoring about that and finding out ways that people can seize these opportunities. I also am co-chairing the Dive In San Francisco celebration. So Dive In, if you're not familiar, is an international diversity inclusion festival that Lloyd's of London started 4 years ago. And so throughout the nation and I guess the world, various cities are having celebrations in September. Ours will be on September 20th in San Francisco at the Hyatt by the Embarcadero. And we're actually hosting a diversity inclusion fair. So it's time for action. It's time for inclusion. We're going to have insurance companies there, ERGs, diverse professional organizations, coming together, crowdsourcing solutions to diversity, inclusion challenges, and leaving with a call to action that everyone can take. So if you can't find diverse talent or you can't find that, come to our organization's event. That way you can meet various professional organizations and ERGs to find diverse talent within insurance.
Okay, but something I kind of heard, are you starting a podcast soon?
Yeah. So basically, with that business insurance, we're a major media company. We have the magazine, we have awards, we have conferences and all that stuff. And kind of just using our platform and our diversity inclusion, we would like to expand the podcast space. So we'll be launching a podcast later this year, highlighting insurance companies and diversity inclusion influencers, and giving the audience, tips, tactics, strategies, and ways that we can embrace a more inclusive culture within insurance.
So if you need any pointers, just reach out to us. We have a good friend, JLD, that has a program for people looking to start podcasting.
John Lee
Yeah,
Dumas?
John Lee Dumas.
On fire. Oh my God. Yeah. I love him. Okay, so let's take it back. Like when I was in the car in Atlanta driving to work on the way to Aon every morning, I would listen to his podcast. I wasn't an entrepreneur, but just hearing him fire me up and tell the stories of people's highs and lows that helped spark my bug to get excited about podcasting. So I would say I'm very excited now to get in this space because I think it's great for business insurance to do this because it's one other way to reach people who may not be readers. And also just, the dream of just, if I can fire somebody up the way that JLD or you guys, your podcast is amazing too. I was listening about the LinkedIn tips. It really fired me up. So I'm really excited. And I will take all the pointers, people, whatever you want to toss my way to make this.
Well, thank you. And we will be sure to tell John about that tonight during dinner.
Oh my God.
He's our good friend and our neighbor here in Puerto Rico.
Yes, and it just so happens that we're going to dinner with John and Kate.
So we'll be mentioning it.
Tell him I'm a stan. I'm a stan for him and Beyonce. I'll say that.
That is so funny. But I want to go back to a couple of the conferences because I know you have a busy schedule. We do too in September. But your first engagement, I guess, that you're going to be doing is you're going to be on a webinar with Kim Davis. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, yes. So as I mentioned, unconscious bias is a really big thing because as you say, sometimes people go into situations and they have perceptions about stuff or they act, and these trickle down to hiring decisions, business decisions, and all that kind of stuff. So checking ourselves, like I said, Kim Davis is a phenomenal woman. She's the chief HR officer at MFP. And they actually launched an advisory board this year for diversity inclusion, and she's been featured on her company's 60 Minutes talking about unconscious bias. So we'll have a webinar in which we're going to equip people with tactics, strategies, and understanding of what that unconscious bias is and ways that companies can help manage these within the workforce. And so I'm really excited about that. That's happening on September 18th from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Very, very good. And you were talking about you love podcasts because of making friends. We also wanted to just mention one of the friends that we made through podcasting is Ngozi. And she was the one that actually invited us to go out to Naya. And she'll be coming on one of our upcoming episodes. And so we'll get to meet her live in Atlanta. And then we also get to meet another person that we met through conferences and whatnot, which is Sophia Reed. And she's invited us in Atlanta to go visit the Pure Company. So we're excited about that as well.
Look at you guys taking over the world, all over the place. Is it your first time to Atlanta?
No, we back in the day when I was with Manette, Aon, we had an office in Atlanta. So I would go every once in a while, and we've been there, gone to the aquarium and all that good stuff.
What was it? We're taking over the world like Pinky and the Brain.
That's actually my nickname. My friend calls me Pinky, so there you go. I'm like, I'm the brain. What do you mean? It's
I didn't identify which one of us was Pinky and which one was the brain.
Right, but Atlanta is great. That's where I started my insurance career. So it's a vibrant community. So I know Nile will be great. And then I just like all the things they're doing. I would say the one thing I like, and I don't know if you can relate on this, living in different areas, that every insurance community has its own flavor and own culture. Like I worked in Atlanta as well as, in the Bay Area. And it's just things in Atlanta, I would say people are so welcoming and open to things when it comes to educating you and getting into circles and everything. I think there's also opportunities, but one thing talking about the diversity aspect, there's a lot of, I would say, minority-owned businesses in Atlanta, which is great. And I think it's an opportunity for insurance companies and take advantage of, because a lot of companies clients, I mean corporations, risk managers, they have corporate social responsibility requirements and aspects and philosophies that includes diversity, supplier diversity. So we need to support diverse businesses because it helps us, whether it's getting contracts or meeting those requirements for different clients is CRS, I'm sorry. So with that, I think, think about that companies, with your diversity strategy. What are you guys doing to help vendors who are diverse, not just roles like janitors or whatever, but also in the business and giving them piece of that to help manage people's risk and opportunities in that aspect.
So on the challenges of tomorrow, the skills that are required to meet the challenges of tomorrow, what do you see as the top 2 to 3 skills that are currently lacking to meet the challenges of tomorrow?
Top skills, I would say one of the top skills is just personal branding. I think when individuals understand their value, their worth, and their value proposition, they're able to do better for themselves as well for companies, because there's untapped potential you're missing out if you're not articulating, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z for the client, or I can do X, Y, Z for you. So I think that's one, just knowing your personal brand and recognizing that, because it helps companies understand your career track and how they can use you, as well as you're feeling more engaged in what you're doing. Another challenge I would just say is just communication skills, whether it's verbal or written. I think nowadays technology is amazing. We have AI to help fast track things, but sometimes small talk goes a long ways, or picking up the phone. I know I would do that when it had complex email chains that go back and forth. It's like, hey, I know we emailed 3 times about this. Let's talk, let's figure out the situation. I think that's a big thing. How do we use technology that's a beneficial way, but not losing the human aspect? And how do we unplug so we don't get burnt out? So I would say, honestly, knowing your personal brand, as well as using technology responsibly, but also keeping our human nature intact for business so we can actually solve complex things together.
You talked about branding, and we really did cover that on the LinkedIn episode with Joshua B. Lee, where that's really there's a tool out there now called LinkedIn that is an excellent tool for branding yourself and for making those contacts in the industry, that I think is really something that everybody needs to pay attention to these days.
But it's absolutely, like you said, sometimes you have to just get past all those tools, right? And just start that live conversation. Those automated tools is just a starting point, right? And at the end of the day, so many people, the reason that we become successful and so many people can make it is because of their personal branding, their ability to network, to be able to reach out, talk, have a true personal relationship with their boss, with their mentor.
Without losing that genuineness about you, without having to go through those phony extremes that some people do to try to connect. Again, it comes back to something you said earlier about being yourself.
It's funny because it sounds so simple. Yeah, it's so hard for people, and that might be one. They might not know who they are, and we all have to go through our journey of understanding who we are as individuals. But there are tools out there that help us identify that. Like I said, the 360 reach was very eye-opening to me, because I sent it out to like clients, I sent it to friends, whatever, and it goes. They have interesting questions like, if this person was a car, what brand they would be? If this person was a cereal, what would it be? And it was really good, feedback, because I got everything from Cheerios, them cheery, to Captain Crunch, because I'm sweet, but if you're not careful, it'll tear up the roof of your mouth.
Oh.
I would say there's tools out there help you understand who you are, and you kind of have to know that in order to do your personal brand. And so I would suggest people learn who you are, because being yourself is the most important thing. But if you're not able to tell people and companies, it's hard to have, I would say, job security, because they're like, well, this person, what's their value? And it's like, well, hey, I do X, Y, and Z. I do it well, and I can help you in this kind of way. People are more likely to reach out to you and tap you for opportunities that otherwise would not be presented to you.
I'm going to pause here just for a second to remind our listeners to join us next week, when we will be looking at Puerto Rico's economic outlook post-Hurricane Maria and the role the insurance industry will play on the island in the future. We will be talking with Ruben Hellis Jr., President of the International Insurers Consulting Group and Vice President of the Puerto Rico International Insurers Association. Also joining us will be Raymond Burgos, a legal counsel at RPB Consulting LLC. That's next week on episode 78 of Spot On Insurance.
And so let's flip that on the other side, from the industry side. What opportunities are there for the insurance industry itself to embrace any new technology that can help us be more inclusive in the workplace? Are there any like tools out there that you've seen that you're like, oh, wow, every organization should have this. This will help?
With that, I would say one is a Diversity Inclusion Institute. Have to plug that because we are a forum for which top insurance companies come together. Their leaders talk about, issues that's going on. We figure out best practices. We have events, we have webinars, we have, research we're producing that's industry specific. That's one tool. I would say, your people, all power to the people. So basically what that is, use surveys, use that data. And once you get the survey back, create process and recommendations. So I know when I was at a company, we did focus groups. So the CEO was at Marsh and South had these focus groups. We were on calls talking about, hey, like what's your, what challenges you face at, and they had different groups. I participated in the women's group as well as one for minorities. What a challenge, what are opportunities? And they use that data. I don't know when I was employed how, but they use it and trickle up to their diversity inclusion initiative. So I would say, use your people and give them a voice, because I felt a lot more value when people were listening to me, as well as you are able to find risk or opportunities. And this is not insurance related, but I know on the corporate side, a company use innovation or use, ERGs for innovation. So one of the groups identified a way to penetrate a different market. I think it was either LGBTQ or Asian or whatever, and they found a solution, a way to market, and they made money from that. So if I were an insurance company, I think, how do I tap into this, get diverse markets, whether it's, hey, on the health and benefits side, I read some research and there's more states allowing for same sex or, legalized marriage as well as whatever, but are the health and benefits reflecting that when it comes to programs and policies corporations have? So think about some diverse ways, or use diversity to find different business solutions. So if there's different markets, like I say, LGBTQ families, again, the right kind of health and benefits to figure out, okay, what are some emerging risks when it comes to diversity? Is there a crisis management policy and plan when there is an issue? You hear on the headlines, there's issues, whether it's police as well as corporations when they're having mishaps with communicating diverse things, or either their employees are having issues or their customers are. So how are they communicating the process? How are they correcting the situation? Starbucks did a good job in which they correct the situation, had a public statement, had some corrective action, and everything else. But is your company, your clients doing that? And if they don't, what's going to be the consequence? Are they going to lose money and revenue? And then and also, will they be sued for certain things? And on the risk management side, what are we doing to help companies understand the complications of that and the consequences? And do we have diverse staff or diverse advisors, brokers, underwriters, or whatever, telling them about these risks? So I would say those are some areas that insurance could work on and opportunities that leverage diversity and inclusion.
The thing that diversity brings, I feel, is experience. When you have different races, you have male, female, what you've got are different experiences. And understanding those different experiences can always lead you to having a better company.
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
I think also we have to think about, there are different levels of diversity inclusion, or different aspects about that. I mean, obviously gender, sexual orientation, race, that's one thing, but also different abilities. Because through some of my experience in the corporate setting, I thought about, man, like, do we have settings that are inclusive? For example, I remember I was on a call with a client. It was a phone conference because I work in California. They were in the East Coast somewhere else. And I was on the call. I'm like, okay, let me do a conference call. And then luckily, the person felt confident enough to say, hey, can you speak really loud? I am 75% deaf. And I was like, oh,
Yes.
wow. Let me think about this. Okay, thank you for sharing that to me. Is there a better way in which we can conduct meetings? What do you prefer? What's more helpful? She said, video chat. So I was like, okay, I could, because she said video chat because she can read lips. So I'm like, now I know it's better off for me to have it. So if there's a conference call, there is some kind of web visual component. That way there's an option there, because you might not have a disability now, but you might have it later.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I had a colleague when I was working at State Farm, one of the brightest. We would do tests together whenever, always one of the top, but he had a a stutter. And I was thinking like, not to then have I worked in a professional setting with someone with a speech impediment, and my son had a speech delay. And so we have our own little thing. So I guess I'm more understanding now, like, okay, the process and whatever, but I'm thinking, do we have environments which people who have different disabilities or abilities and so they can thrive, because it doesn't mean they're not competent, but what are we doing to ensure that they can still participate and provide value and that they feel included and comfortable because they're performing well, but are our work structures rewarding that behavior? As well as for introverts, what are we doing to make sure they can thrive in the workplace? Because always like the squeaky wheel gets, oiled, but introverts have value too. So I think let's think about diversity inclusion in a broader sense sometime, or because to think about that, we don't always capitalize on talent. If our company's not doing it, they'll go to the next one. And we want to keep that talent, that's growing and developed within our organization.
Great points. Wonderful points.
Okay, Deidre, as someone in our circle of insurance professionals and somebody doing all this diversity training and looking at all this information, what advice do you have to share with someone that's just entering the industry?
To Arlene's point, learn, like be open, ask the questions. It's my advice. Assume you know nothing. Like it sounds like, I don't want to be negative, but like assume you know nothing, because I'm always learning something new about insurance. I work with people who have 40 plus years and are like, that's a new question I've never heard of, but I'm going to find an answer. So I would say, one, ask questions, and then stay curious, because it's one thing to say, based on my experience, I recommend X, Y, and Z versus I know it all, because the day you know it all is when you don't pick up on something, and that could be a bigger effect, whether either cost, money-wise, cost certifications, or, or whatever. So I would just say stay curious, ask plenty of questions, and figure out what your passion is. And I say that because insurance relates to everything. And there's so many different jobs. Like I know people who, this one lady I worked with, she was an art broker. So like fine art, she helped insure like all the expensive stuff. I know someone does entertainment broking. So whether it comes to like resorts or concerts, like, he's helping find insurance for that. So figure out what your passion is, because you're going to be more engaged, and you can find a way to do that in insurance. So ask questions, find your passion. And then like, I would just say, just pursue it and crush your job.
Crush it. I love it, Deidre, and I love what you said. Stay curious.
Yes, but the other thing is that insurance does have so many different branches that, whatever it is that you do, insurance is somehow involved. Being able to match those two things, what you love to do in insurance, you should be able to find a job that you love.
And last, tell a friend. I tell everybody, and my friends, they roll their eyes when they're with me, because I tell them like, hey, because I go to, like I was at a restaurant, and this guy gave me the best customer service. And I did this before. I'm like, have you heard about insurance careers? Because you have great customer service. But all my friends like, you're doing that. I'm like, I'm going to do it today I die, because that's how you get diverse people.
That's right. And we only want the good ones in our industry, right?
Yeah. But I'm like, if you're over here busting tables and it's 1,000 people, you're keeping them happy, clearly you can do something in insurance. So I try to like tell people, teach one, reach one, let's get more people in the industry. So don't just hoard the information, but tell your friends so they can be put onto opportunities as well.
We'll try to practice that from here for you, okay?
We just want the good ones. I love it.
Yeah, at the restaurant tonight during dinner, you better ask someone, like, have y'all thought about insurance careers?
We'll see if they qualify.
We've actually done that, where we've been so impressed with someone at a restaurant that we've told them about, the industry, but we've also walked away and talked about that individual for hours. That customer service was amazing. And what kind of training did they have to service us the way they did and to take care of the people the way they did? And wow, we could use them in the insurance industry. You're right. How do folks connect with you? Because I know you gave us a load of information today on diversity, and there's going to be people out there who want to get in touch with you, who want more information. How do they do it?
Right. If you want information, whether it's to just say hi, or you want to hear about a business opportunity with business insurance, or be a part of the diversity inclusion movement, you can reach me via LinkedIn. So Deidre Wright. Also, you can reach me on Twitter, and my handle is at Deidre Wright, right? Like a writing utensil. So Deidre Wright. And then, just at different industry events. Like I said, I'll be at Dive-In, I'll be at NAIA, and other ones. So just follow me and join the journey in which we'll just make this a more diverse, inclusive industry.
Do me a favor and spell your first name for me, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah. So Deidre, Deidre.
The first time I went out looking for you, I was spelling it wrong and I couldn't find you at all. So I'm sure somebody else would go and run into the same problem.
That's for sure. So yeah, Deidre Wright, at Deidre Wright, DeidreWright. So that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much, Deidre, for spending this time with Ted and me on Spot On Insurance. We've had such a great time. It's been our biggest pleasure to be talking with you.
Thank you. And I hope to do it again and, hope you guys grow as well.
Thank you.
Visit SpotOnInsurance.com, where you'll discover an ever-growing library of podcasts, videos, articles, and online tools by professionals for professionals to enhance your insurance education. By the way, that's where you'll also find our podcast notes and bonus resources. Please don't forget to click the iTunes link to rate and review, and let others know what you think of Spot On Insurance. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week.